Good morning. Welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 157, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry, Plurk, and Instagram. Today is Thursday, March 26th, and it's not even 9 o'clock, people. I am this put together prior to 9 o'clock in the morning. Just saying, it doesn't happen very often. And I'm not sure why it did today, but it did, so we're going to just go with it. And I will say, it's not that it's particularly warm outside today, because it's not, although I think it's supposed to get a little warmer. I'm really warm in the house today. I'm not sure why. Well, actually, I do know why. I slept with my little electric heater on last night, and I woke up feeling like I was in a cocoon. It was so nice and warm, but I was super, super warm. And then I've been running around all morning trying to get stuff ready for the podcast. Then I hopped in a hot shower. And so by the time I was getting ready, like putting makeup on and doing my hair and everything, I'm like, I am so warm. There was no way I could put anything with sleeves on. So that's why you're getting me sleeveless today, even though it's only the end of March here in Pittsburgh. It's not typically tank top weather. Although, you know what I have to say? I wear tank tops all year round. I put them on underneath things as a layer. I wear them with like cardigans over top, because sometimes when I'm dyeing, it gets really warm in my kitchen, so a tank top is perfectly fine. Let me say hello to some people. There was Debbie from Michigan, who she has a podcast called the Never Cast Off podcast. I have not gotten to see that yet, but it's on my list to watch at some point. Lisa from Maryland, Tammy from Ohio, Jamie, I think it's Jamie, gosh, I can't, oh no, Janice, I'm sorry, I can't read my writing, from Ontario, and Sarah, also from Ontario, and that is the Sarah who is has the Canadian Knitter podcast, which I have watched, and I think I've mentioned that in the past. So, welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves on the 90% Knitting board, and it's great to have you. And if you are new and are just watching me for the first time, thanks for checking me out. And if you've been watching low these many years, thank you for that too. I had my podiversary, I know. It's such a weird word. Back in January. It would have been the end of January. And I'm going to say that was my fourth. That would have marked the end of the 4th year of podcasting. So like I'm in my 5th year of the podcast now. That's crazy. Goodness gracious. Anyway, I didn't think about it at the time. That's why I'm even mentioning it now. And I'm also going to apologize because I've got a really tickly throat thing going on. I don't know if it's an allergy or what's happening, but I need to take a drink every now and then because otherwise I'm going to start to cough. Okay, let's get to the knitting because that's the fun part. I have a finished object. Can you guess what it is? It's the Sheep Heid hat. Yay! I finished my sheep head. Obviously, the ends are not woven in, and there are bunches and bunches and bunches of them. But look at my floats. My floats are really pretty even on the inside. I mean, there's a few that are kind of big and wonky, but for the most part, I was pretty even with my floats. Obviously, it has not been blocked yet. I'm not going to do a hard block on this. I'm going to weave in the ends first, actually, so that I can tighten up any loose stitches that are here along the join. And honestly, yeah, I'm going to, because usually I wait until after I've blocked something to weave in the ends. Well, no, that's not entirely true. Sometimes I weave them in, I just don't cut them until after I've blocked them. Anyway, I'm going to weave in my ends. Then I'm just going to soak it, and I'm going to lay it out and smooth it out to try to even out the stitches. I'm not really going to block it like with a plate or anything in it, even though it's a tam. Really, the picture on the pattern doesn't show it that way anyway. It's just sort of a big, slouchy, nicely roomy fitting hat, and that's what I like about it. It's so funny because I hadn't actually even looked at my join area, and you can see where everything shifts up. Like this shifts up. You don't notice it so much with the sheep, but then here you can see the shift. I mean, you're just going to get that knitting in the round like that. I do not have the patience to try to, you know, some people finagle stitches around. I don't even know how I would do that with color work. I'm sure it's possible, but it wasn't something I was feeling compelled to try to do. But anyway, you know, that'll be in the back. I won't see it, and anybody looking that closely, can deal with it. So anyway, it is finished. This is the Sheep Heid, H-E-I-D, not head, H-E-A-D, pattern by Kate Davies. And obviously, if you've been watching this for a while, you know that I've had this kit. I ordered it from Jamieson & Smith in the Shetland Islands several years ago. So all of the yarn is the 9 natural colors of the Shetland sheep from the Shetland Islands that Jamieson has. And it turned out beautifully. I'm so happy with it. Look at the top. Isn't it fun? I just love how it turned out. And it fits fine. It looks gigantic. Like as I was knitting this, getting towards the end, I'm like, this looks like it would fit a giant's head. But honestly, it fits really well here. I'll put it on and then deal with my hair later. But like, it fits, the brim fits great. And it's just like got the little bit of slouch in the back. It's a perfect hat for me. It really is. So, okay. Yeah, now we'll deal with the hair. Anyway, this was what I was knitting for the Stranded Colorwork Knit-Along that Melissa and I are co-hosting through the end of this month. So you've still got a few days. I really didn't know that I would get this done, even though I went like gangbusters on it for the first half of the hat, and then I sort of petered out for a while. But you know what? This was actually my top priority knit this past week because I had finished the sweater, the Francis sweater last week, and which also does not have its ends woven in yet. But you know what? I couldn't wear. I thought I would weave them in and try to wear it on the podcast this week. I'd be like sweating like crazy. Anyway, once I finished the Francis, this was my next top priority knit, and I pretty much did nothing but knit on this primarily this whole past week. I finished this Tuesday night, I believe. So yeah, I'm really, really glad to have it finished. I love how it turned out. I love the colors. Doing the crown, the very top of the crown when I couldn't work on the circular anymore and had to go to DPNs. DPNs plus color work, that was really, really fiddly, and I was getting frustrated, but it was only for maybe 6 or 7 rounds, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. So anyway, it's done. And I've actually finished a project for a knit-along that I am sponsoring, and I've gotten the project done within the knit-along time. So that doesn't always happen. So yay. Anyway, outside of that, the only other things that I was working on concurrently with that was the Fruit Loop socks. Because I'm really, this is like my next priority want to finish project. This is the second sock, which I had just cast on last week. There was like 1 or 2 rounds of the blue. So I've done all of this past week. And this is my Fruit Loops sock colorway on my Bounce sock base. And I had a question in last week's thread. I was talking about the sock ruler, and I was saying how I was having trouble getting an accurate reading using it, as opposed to just using a regular tape measure, which is what I've always done. So someone had asked me, and I'm sorry I can't remember who you were, but you had asked if maybe I could show on the podcast how I measure socks. And so I thought I would do that. And I thought I would also use the sock ruler to show you my dilemma. So first of all, this is the sock ruler, which I talked about last week. It's from the sock ruler, or actually www.sockruler.com. And it's a very useful tool. I'm not knocking this tool at all. I'm just saying I'm having trouble using it on this particular sock. This is a top-down sock, which I'm doing an afterthought heel. I've got about another inch or so, I think, to go. So, okay. The whole concept of this is that you stick this inside your sock. All right. So here's the edge of my sock, and if I line it up with the tip of the sock ruler, and it's just probably better to do this on a flat surface than what I'm doing. So I can't do that here. And then roll the needle down so you can reach it. This is measuring. See, this is really hard. I'm having a hard time keeping this lined up because it's just that tip. See, now if there was on the opposite side a ruler where I could do that edge, like the flat edge, against that top edge of my sock, I really think that would be far more useful. Now, I know I can measure and then subtract because I'm actually going the opposite way, right? Because this is a, what, 10-inch ruler, 10 inches, and this is measuring down to like 4 3/4. Yeah, about. So that means 10, 4, oh my gosh, math. Well, 10 minus 4 would be 6. So this is 5 1/4 inches long. Oh my gosh. I can't do mental math like this. Don't make me. At any rate, I know I could do the math and figure it out that way. It's just not as easy, obviously, because I'm math challenged. But doing it this way, where I have to keep that little tip lined up, yeah, it's about 4 1/4, measuring it with this sock ruler. Oh, I guess it would help if I had it in the frame, huh? So, but then I have to keep the needle rolled down to try to get it accurate. And then I'm pulling the sock also. And that's measuring almost 4 1/2. So that's how I'm measuring this with the sock ruler. Now, using just a regular tape, I would start from the needle side. Gosh, Lisa, show the people. I would hold my sock like this so that this is flat up here and I'm not pulling on it. And then I would line up the 0 essentially with my needle because that's where the last row of stitches are, and measure down. And if I measure down that way, it does measure 5 1/4. Actually 5 3/8 if I flatten it out. So again, I mean, it's not like this is super off for me. I'm just having a harder time doing it. And see, the other thing is now once I get to the point where I will have my waste yarn in for my afterthought heel, this is not as useful to me because then, again, if I could put this in on this side from my needle end, I could line this up with that waste yarn part and be able to read down and see what it's measuring for how long I have to do the foot before I start doing the toe. But again, if I have to do it from this part, it's something about having to line up just this tip of this rounded edge with a flat part. I'm having trouble with that. So I am not finding this all that useful for a top-down afterthought heel sock. If I was doing toe up, I think it might be better. But I don't really care to do toe up socks. So most of my socks are not toe up. Although that one sock I have cast on, the one that I'm doing with Disa, the, what's it called? Expanding Community sock, which I did not work on this week. That's a toe up sock. So I'll have to use this again on that and try to see. That will not be an afterthought heel though. At least I'm not planning for it to be at this point. And I don't think no, I don't think there's an afterthought. There's a specific heel written into that pattern that I'm going to do. So anyway, yeah, that's my thing. But the way I showed you with this, how I like measure it down from the needle so I can keep the fabric flat and then measure down, that is my normal way of measuring socks, and it's always been really pretty accurate for me. So I hope that gives you an idea. And if you have some insight as to how I might be able to use this a little bit better, again, I really wish the inches were also printed the opposite direction on this side. Maybe I'll write to her and recommend that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let me know what you think. Or let me know how you measure your socks. Maybe you have a totally different way. But anyway, so I did work on that, obviously. That was my mindless knitting when I needed to take a break from all that color work. And then the other thing I also picked back up to work on was the Mama Vertebrae, which I did not get very far on. This is the Mama Vertebrae pattern by blah, blah, blah. I don't remember who, because I don't have it written in my notes for some reason. Who is it by? Kelly Brooker. And this is the one I'm using, the Elsbeth Lavold Silky Wool that I love so much. And this is colorway 50. Here's my little marker where I was last time. So I've added probably about 2 inches, maybe not quite. And I'm on the body part, so it's just stockinette, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I have not worked on this in a few weeks, so the fact that I've only put on, you know, that much isn't very impressive. My sort of goal is I'd love to have this done in time to take it to Maryland with me in case it's cool enough to wear this. I'm not sure it'll get done by then, quite honestly, because I'm not loving the pattern nearly as much as I thought I would to really want to work on it that much. It's boring. Honestly, that's what it is. It's a pretty sweater. Like, when it's done, it's pretty. I love the simplicity of it. But to knit it, I'm finding it very boring. Maybe if I was doing it in like a variegated or a tonal shade of yarn, that would make it less boring. I know it would. But the fact that I'm doing it in this yarn, and I love this yarn. You've heard me rave about this yarn forever. I love silky wool, but it's just, it's that neutral color. And I think maybe that's part of it too. I'm a little neutraled out. As much as I love the neutral shades of wool, after doing that spinning, that Lincoln that I spun and blended, or blended and then spun, you know, that was a neutral, those were neutral shades. Now I've done the Sheep Heid hat, neutral shades, and I'm doing this neutral shade. I need some color in my life. So, this is in my silver shed moose bag that I got from not Dramatic Knits, but from Leading Men Fiber Arts a while back. I never think to tell you about my bags. I don't know why. I'm sorry. This one was just a little bag that I picked up at Indie Knit and Spin last year, and I think this was Dusty something. She sells soap mainly. Yeah, Dusty Tree Knits. It's Dusty Tree soap too. But I love this little drawstring bag with the puppies with the hats and scarves. So anyway, worked on those things. As soon, and I'm literally telling you, as soon as I cast off or bound off the Sheep Heid hat, I came directly here into my office and I picked up this bag, which you haven't seen in a while. And this was I don't remember who made it, but it was the bag I got in my goodie bag at the first SSK I went to. This is housing my Age of Brass and Steam shawl because it is colorful. And like I said, I needed some color in my life. So I picked this back up. This, again, is not a deadline kind of knit at all. I'm just sort of knitting on it a few rows here and there because they're getting quite long. I had 5 balls of this yarn. This is the Scholler and Stahl Limbo Color. This is colorway number... Do I have this on here? I thought I added this. Oh, Age of Brass and Steam by Orange Flower Yarn. That's who designed the pattern. Color number 2539. I'm about halfway done. I had 5 balls. This is all I have left of the third one, so I'm going to say that's at least halfway, if not a little more. The rows are quite long, but I just love these colors. These are totally my colors. They make me very, very happy. I'm not even following the pattern at this point, which, yeah, I went off the pattern ages ago, and at this point I'm just winging it because it's not a difficult knit at all. I mean, it's pretty much you do increases on your edges. You have your center spine. I actually probably should look up the pattern just to make sure I'm not doing anything too terribly bizarre, because I actually think since I've picked it up that I am doing the edge wrong. I actually think maybe I'm supposed to be doing yarn overs on my purl rows too, and I might not be doing that. So I should probably pull the pattern out just to make sure that I'm not completely flubbing this up. But I didn't really add all that much to it either since you saw it last. And I don't think I even had a marker in here. I've added maybe 5 or 6 rows since I pulled it out, but it was just what the doctor ordered when I pulled it out because I really, really just needed color. So it was great. And I love these needles. These are the Knitter's Pride something. I don't remember what the wooden ones are called. It's not the carbons. It's not the ones with the silver tips. They're the wooden ones. What are they called? Knitter's Pride. I'll try to remember them and put them in the show notes. I'll look it up. But I do like those. Of all the wooden needles I have, those are my favorites because they're nice and smooth and shiny and they slide nicely. So Anyway, and I'm knitting that on US 7s. So that's what I worked on knitting-wise this week. Last night, it was kind of late. By the time I finished rinsing yarn and I was getting some stuff ready for the podcast, and my thing lately, while I've been really busy, is I'm knitting mostly first thing in the morning and last thing before I go to bed. That's my main knitting time, and it's not a lot of time, but it's enough. Last night I wanted to knit. I wanted to do something, but I just didn't really know what. And so I spun. I actually have another knitting project I'm going to show you, but I'm going to go with the spinning for a second. Remember I told you I had this fiber on my wheel that I just wasn't really loving, but I didn't want to not finish it and start something new. Well, I finally finished it this week, and I have to reach to get it. Sorry. There's nothing wrong with the fiber. It just wasn't making my heart all that happy. But it was some politically incorrect fiber. This is the big heavy ball band that was on it. Politically incorrect one night stand fiber bats, which I'm assuming that means they're one of a kinds, maybe. I don't know. The name of this one was Zach, which is my oldest son's name, and that's the one and only reason I bought this bat. When I bought it. And I've had this in my stash for several years now. Matter of fact, I think I bought this in Florida at a little yarn shop that I was at one time. And it's actually the yarn shop that Kimber, who's Kimber Knits, she works at. At least I think she still works there. She worked there then. I think just on Saturdays maybe, but she was there, and I'm pretty sure where I got this yarn or this fiber. So anyway, it's merino, corriedale, and silk, and this is the finished yarn. Really deep colors. I was not trying to spin it carefully at all. It's really big and chunky. I would say it's at least a worsted weight, maybe even Aran spots. The colors are very pretty. It actually looks quite Christmassy now that it's spun up. It did not look Christmassy in the bat. These were huge bats, though. When I opened this up, I mean, this was so big and fluffy. When I opened it up, there were actually 4 layers of huge bats in there. So I spun, how did I do this? I'm trying to remember now. I spun it on 2 different, did I spin it on 2 different bobbins? No, I spun it on 4 bobbins. I used 1 bobbin for each layer. Is that right? Yes. And I mean, there was a lot of fiber that would go on each bobbin, and I was stripping the colors because it was a bat that had the colors pretty much in strips, and I could do that. So I spun each of them in the same order with the colors stripped, and then when I plied, I just picked 2 and I plied them together. The one ran out way before the other one, so obviously they were not all the same weight or the same amount of fiber in them, because I spun them actually fairly evenly, considering how long it took me to do them. So then I added, I just joined the 3rd one in, and then I don't even think if I got to the 4th one, I didn't get very far into the 4th one. There's a lot of fiber left on the 4th one. And I do not remember, did I write down? Oh yeah, I got about 138 yards of a 2-ply. So it's a pretty bulky, it's a heavy, I'm going to say Aran. It's probably an Aran. I didn't use my wraps per inch tool, but I'm going to guess Aran weight. So I'm glad it's done, because like I said, it really was not the most exciting spin for me. It spun fine. I mean, well enough. It just wasn't the most exciting thing I've spun lately. So at least it's off my wheel. So last night I decided to spin, and oh shoot, I didn't bring it in. You know what? I'm going to go get it because I've got to show this to you. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, that took a little bit longer than I thought it would. Although not that you'll notice, because it's going to splice right together. As soon as I stood up and went out there, I started having this major coughing fit. So I actually made myself some tea. So different mug this time. This is my Tangerine Designs mug that I got at SSK last year. Some cute little sheepies. I'm assuming this is dishwasher safe. I put it in the dishwasher, and some of the little sheepy parts are starting to come off. I think maybe the dishwasher is a little too harsh for it. I should probably just wash it by hand. But anyway, but the tea, let me tell you about the tea. I know this is not what we were talking about, but I'll forget otherwise. It's this English tea shop tea, and it's called Chocolate Super Berry Burst. I got this in a little package that my friend Amelia sent me a while back. She sent me a box full of goodies. It was so much fun. But anyway, she had this tea in there, and I have never had this tea before. And actually, this is the first time I'm drinking it since she sent it, because I haven't been in a tea mode. I love tea. I just don't drink it often. But when I do get into a tea mode, I drink it all the time, if that makes any sense. So anyhow, I thought I need tea because my throat, what is it about the fact that coffee does not seem to soothe a tickle in your throat the way tea does? At least it doesn't for me. But anyway, this tea is awesome, and I have never seen this brand. And it's like totally organic tea. And it has, if I can read it because my eyes, it has actually everything says organic prior to it, so I'm not going to say organic every time, but it has rooibos, hibiscus, roasted cocoa pieces, licorices, vanilla pods, raspberry concentrate, black currant concentrate, pomegranate concentrate with natural chocolate, strawberry, and raspberry flavors. I mean, what is not to love in there? And it smells so delicious. So, and look how pretty the little tea packet is. My goodness. So anyway, thank you, Amelia. I am loving my tea, and it's helping to soothe my throat too. Okay, now back to what I was originally talking about before I had to leave, because I didn't bring it in with me, was spinning. When I don't even remember where I left off. I was just saying I wanted to do something different. So last night I spun. I had gotten that politically incorrect fibers off my wheel a couple days ago. Hadn't started spinning anything else because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to spin yet. I have that huge bag of mystery fiber, which actually is not mystery anymore. I remembered it's Shetland Romney blend, but it's a pound of it, and it's sitting out there, and I can't bring myself to spin it yet, even though I think it would be a very nice spin. A pound of a neutral color of spinning, I can't do it right now for the reasons that I mentioned earlier about I'm just a little neutraled out right now. So anyway, I pulled some fiber out of my stash because heaven knows I've got a gigantic fiber stash back there in a whole bunch of bins. A lot of it though is natural colored flat fiber, so those were definitely not happening. And after having done the politically incorrect bats, I knew I didn't really feel like spinning another bat right now. So I pulled this out. And I know it looks like a hot mess at the moment, but that's because it's just split. This is half of a braid of fiber. This is from, I didn't bring the tag in for this either, but I can tell you. This is Unwind Yarn Company, Swirl BFL, in the Harvest Moon colorway. These colors are me. I absolutely love these deep orangey yellows, the golden yellows, and the swirl. I love her Swirl BFL. It's just amazing. And the dyeing that she does on it is just always stunning. You've heard me talk about Dana and her dyed goods before because I am such a huge fan. And I cannot say, I mean, her yarn's all very pretty. That's what I'm actually making my Atlantic Current socks out of, which I have not also worked on. But her fiber, I love to pieces. And I'm so sad because I was reading on her shop page last night that she's apparently not going to be dyeing fiber again. I don't know if that's forever. I mean, I know she is very, very pregnant right now, and so it's probably very, very hard for her. I think that's the biggest deal, to dye fiber. So I don't know if she'll get back to it some other time in the future or not, but I mean, from the sounds of it, there's not going to be more fiber in her shop anytime soon. So if you want to look for some, I was on there and I was so tempted to buy something, but then I remembered how much fiber I've got back there and I didn't. Although I should go through it and see how much of it is left that's hers, because I may want to stock up a little bit if there's not going to be any more. Anyway, so I pulled this out, and this, I split the braid in half, you know, lengthwise, obviously. And then all I did was split the one of the halves. This is one half of it. The other half, I just split it in half again. So it's sort of a fractal spin, but not really, because usually you'd split that other half in 3 or 4 pieces. But this is how the first quarter of it spun up. I just took the whole flyer off of my wheel and everything. I can get it to focus. There we go. Look how pretty. Oh my goodness. The colors definitely become a little more muted when they're spun, but that's how spinning works. This spins like butter, and it's just beyond beautiful. I can't say enough good things about it. It's just beautiful. So that's what I did last night. I spun 1/4 of this braid. I mean, it's, I think, a 4-ounce braid. So I spun 1 ounce. I have the other 1/4 that I'm going to spin onto this bobbin, and then I will do this half on its own bobbin and ply them together. So anyway, but this is a happy spin for me. See, and this I love enough that I'm willing to spin it nice and thin. This is not going to be just a quick, dirty spin that I don't care what the weight is that I get. I want to get yardage out of this. So anyway, so that was my spinning. And then this morning, well, actually last night still, like after I was done spinning, it was like 11 o'clock, and that's late for me, and I was tired, but I wanted to do something. But I didn't. I went to bed instead. But first thing this morning, I still had that urge of I just needed to do something new. Yeah, you just get that way, right? So I pulled out a pattern that I have had in my queue forever and ever and ever and ever. And it is the fish head hat. Well, the fish hat. It's called fish hat. It's a free nitty pattern from winter of 2008, I believe. And it is by Thelma Egberts. I've wanted to make this hat absolutely forever. And so I decided now is the time I was going to cast it on. And actually, this is in my little bag that Amelia sent me too. My cute little forest creatures bag. I decided to knit it out, appropriately enough, out of my Here Fishy Fishy colorway. And this is my cozy base. And I've actually had 2 skeins of this set aside to make this hat for quite a while now. So I cast it on this morning and started it. And this is being knit on US 7s. These are Addis, just Addi Turbo. Addi Turbos. I thought I lost stitches, but I didn't. So one of the reasons that I have not made this pattern before now is because the shaping, everything about the shaping, just like I would read it and I'm like, I'm having a hard time visualizing how that's going to work. And I know it's not difficult, and now that I've done it, it's definitely not difficult. But it was just one of those things that I had to just trust the pattern. Cast on, trust the pattern, and see it work. So you cast on the stitches, and then you do like 1.5 inches of stockinette. So you get this nice rolled edge, and that creates the fish's lips. Then you do 2 short row segments, one in the front and one in the back, and that creates the fish's mouth. And it really does kind of look like a fish's mouth, doesn't it? I think it's awesome. It's just so cute. This is a really clever pattern. So I have now done both of those segments, and now I believe I just go on to knit stockinette for several inches. I have to read to see how far. But yeah, this is so much fun. And the fact that I'm making it out of this colorway makes it even more fun for me. It'll be interesting to see how the stripes change, because when I dye up my worsted weight in self-striping, I usually have in mind like mittens or mitts, smaller things, although really you're still doing quite a number of stitches. Hats, the striping gets a little bit smaller. You can see it down there a little bit. You'll be able to see it better as I do the body. But then you do decreasing to start creating the tail, so the stripes will get wider. So I'm just really interested to see how it knits up, because I've actually not really knit with my self-striping worsted very much. So that's fun. I tend to just default to semi-solids because I love semi-solids, especially in the heavier weights. Anyway, so that's now cast on, and that's my fun project. So, well, I mean, they're all fun, but that's like a new fun project. So I'm going to avoid casting anything else on, though, until I finish the Fruit Loop socks. That has to get done before anything else new is allowed to be cast on it, with maybe one exception, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Okay, so I think I've told you everything that I've worked on. Didn't work on the expanded community socks. Did not work on my design sock again. Didn't work on the Atlantic Current socks. I did the spinning. Designing news. As I told you, the test knitting is all done for the Rambler KAL. Everybody who was test knitting it has gotten their notes back to me. Because I've been so busy getting ready for a knitter's fantasy and dyeing every day, I have not had as much time as I've wanted to work on editing the pattern and incorporating changes from the test knitters. So I don't have that ready. I really wanted to have that pattern ready to go by the end of this month. My hope is to have it ready to release by the time I go to a knitter's fantasy. We'll see. But I don't want to rush it because I know I'll end up goofing something up and I want the pattern to be as accurate as possible. And in the process of that, that is actually what else I might cast on. I may like do all the changes to my pattern and then I may knit it again from the pattern with the changes just to make sure I've got everything right. It's a really fast knit. Like I could definitely do it in a day. A good day or a couple nights of knitting, I can get it done. So I'm not worried about the timing of it. But I just want to make sure I have the pattern right because I'm really happy with the pattern. The test knitters all seem to like the pattern. There weren't major changes that needed to be made, but there's enough that I just want to make sure I get it right. So that's why I'm not rushing that. What else? Upcoming. Well, that was sort of an upcoming thing that I might do another Rambler KAL. Other than that, right now I'm mainly thinking about another Afghan. I made Christopher that Afghan for Christmas, that mitered square Afghan, which he loves. Every time he comes over and spends the night or whatever, he always has his Afghan with him. I think it's so cute. It's like he has his blankie. But he likes his Afghan. I almost wish I would have made it bigger because he's a big guy. And when I see him with it, I realize I probably should have made it like another row wider and another row longer. I may end up doing that at some point. I may just get more yarn and make it bigger for him. We'll see, because that was a fun Afghan to do. Those mitered squares went so fast. Anyway, I'm thinking about an Afghan for Emma. I want to make her an Afghan this year. And I've got a lot of time. I would like to have it for her birthday, which is in August, so plenty of time to do one. I don't want to do an Afghan that is one big piece. I know I don't want to do that. I am not good at those kind of Afghans. You know, the garter stitch Afghan of Doom is a prime example. They just start to get too big and unwieldy, and I don't enjoy knitting on them anymore. I like Afghans that I can do in pieces, like blocks, or even like if I did strips, I'm thinking. Or like, you know, my hand spun Afghan that I'm working on. Well, those are blocks though. Those are the log cabin squares that I'm doing. But as opposed to doing just one big log cabin Afghan. I think those are really cool, but I would get bored with it and I would never get it done. So one of my thoughts is to do a vivid, because then I could use a whole bunch of different colors and make all the squares and put them together. I just have not looked at that vivid pattern close enough to know if it is a little more fiddly than what I would want to be able to do. Because the other thing about Afghans is I like being able to do them without thinking. Like, I don't want to have to carry a pattern around. And so I've not really paid attention to the vivid pattern. I have it. I've got that whole book that has the vivid pattern in it, I think. I just haven't read it enough to know if I'm going to be able to do it without having to do a lot of thinking while I'm knitting it. Because Afghan squares are one of those things that I like to just be able to pick up and take with me. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about that, but I definitely want to do that, get that started soon, and decide on my colors that I want to do it for her. I have an idea, because I think I'm going to do it to kind of match her her comforter that she has. It was a new comforter I got her, I think, a year or two ago for her birthday, and she took it to school with her. It's actually a Vera Bradley, which I would not normally buy Vera Bradley houseware stuff like that because it's fairly expensive, but it was so beautiful, and they only had one left at the little shop where I have bought. I don't buy Vera Bradley very much anymore. I have a bunch of the purses, but I don't buy them very much anymore. But the quilt was just gorgeous, and it was her colors, and so for the twin size it wasn't that much, you know. So I splurged on her when I got it. But I think I'm going to use those colors because there's a whole lot of like bright green and teal and purple I think that would be a really pretty combination for an Afghan for her. So anyway, we'll see. That's my up and coming that I'm thinking about at this point. Let's see. Let's move on. This is getting long. The Stranded Colorwork Knit Along is almost at an end. You have through Tuesday of next week, the 31st, to finish your knitting. And then you'll have, in my group anyway, you'll have through Monday, or through the 1st, Wednesday, April 1st. I'll leave the thread up long enough so you can post pictures. But the knitting has to be done by Tuesday, midnight your time. And it has to have been started by on or after February 1st. Of this year. So there's a ton of entries. I've been looking through them. They're really pretty. I will do the drawing for prizes next week whenever I record. And I've decided what my prizes are going to be. There's going to be 2. One of them will be a Flurry KAL kit. My Flurry, let's see. Here's the Flurry. So that's a Colorwork KAL, which I know this was a Colorwork knit along, so maybe it seems weird to give you a Colorwork prize, but it just seemed appropriate in some way. So there will be a Flurry KAL kit as one of the prizes, and it will be your choice of colors. Whatever 2 colors you want to do your Flurry in, I will dye those for you. And then the other prize will be in my shop I have those Knitter's Choice Colorwork kits, Colorwork sets, and it's basically, it's 4 100-gram, or not 100-gram, 100-yard skeins of semi-solids. So you can choose whatever 4 semi-solid colors you want, and I will put those together for you in one of my little Knitter's Choice Colorwork kits. So those will be the 2 prizes for this particular knit along this time. I'm not planning any other knit alongs for April. April is going to be a no knit along month, just a knit what you want kind of thing. I'm thinking about what I want to do for May though. So there will be something coming in May. So stay tuned for that. I didn't watch any podcasts that were new to me this week. I didn't get any new things. I actually ordered something, but it's not here yet. And actually I won't even be able to show it to you right away because it's, yeah, you'll see it eventually. So yeah, nothing new. I think I actually did buy a pattern on Ravelry maybe, but I don't remember what it was right off the top of my head, and I didn't print it out, so I can't show you. Sorry, that was a fail. Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet is this weekend. Huge fiber yarn festival here in Pittsburgh every year. I will not be vending. People have asked me if I'm vending at it this year. I'm not vending at it this year. I vended 1 year. It's not my kind of show to vend at. It's too big of a time commitment for me, and the way life is for me right now, I just can't swing that. But it's a nice show, lots and lots of vendors. Historically, it's been a lot of vendors with a lot of commercial yarn, but in recent years, there have been more indie dyers there. I have some friends who vend there every year, so it's really fun. Lots of classes. I don't know if classes are still available or what, but there's always a lot of activities. And it's actually at the Westin this year. It's been at the Sheraton North in past years. This year they've moved it to the Westin, so it's actually downtown. So if you go, there's a lot of things to do downtown because you're really close to the Strip District with all the shopping, the foods and different things. Lots of really fun restaurants and lounges and clubs and stuff. So if you're going, have a really, really good time. I'm probably not even going to get down there this weekend just to even go. I'd hoped I maybe would, but I can't. I've got too much work to do getting ready for Knitter's Fantasy and these wholesale orders that I'm doing. I don't have the time to do it. So I probably will not get there. Oh my gosh, this tea smells so good. Anyway, one other thing I wanted to talk to you about knitting wise, and this is just kind of a weird random thing, but I've noticed a couple of other people talking about how they organize different things on podcasts lately, and I thought I would share with you how I organize my knitting needles. Because I've got tons of knitting needles, and so I thought maybe this would be of interest to you. As I bean myself with the drawer. I have a lot of these, just, what are they, Sterlite drawer, plastic drawer containers, and they're over back that way. There's, let's see, two or three big ones on the bottom that have mostly sewing notions and stuff in them. And then I've got 2 more of this size for knitting stuff. This is the one that's on top, and this has all of my main knitting needles. And how I do this is each drawer, let's see if I can show you, I have labeled. The top one is for 16-inch needles, the middle one is for 24-inch needles, and the bottom one, it says 32-inch, but it's basically 32-inch in anything that I have that's longer than 32-inch. So these are all circular needles in here. My next bin down, the top drawer is all, it's also circulars, but it's all my small needles that I use for socks. I just keep my sock needles all in one drawer. The next drawer down from that has all my DPNs and crochet hooks. And then the next drawer down from that, I think just has kind of miscellaneous things. I have a huge, big honkin', like, size 35 plastic knitting needles that I used for something one time. I don't remember what. Like weird stuff that doesn't really, oh, straights. That's what it's not weird things. It's straight needles. I don't knit with straight needles hardly ever anymore, but I have a bunch from when I first started knitting, and I love them. They're pretty. They're wooden. So they're in that. And then moving down, the next 2 drawers have all of my button stash in them. Well, that's not true. I've got jars and jars of button stash, but those 2 drawers have ones that I've purchased like at yarn shows or shops, you know, the really fancy ones. And then the bottom drawer of the 3rd one has a lot of notions like row counters and things like that. You know, just random stuff that I don't need in knitting bags all the time. So anyway, this is what I was going to show you, though. I'm going to sit it here in front of me because I want to show you now how I actually organize the needles, because there's really no organizing them. They're just all in the drawer, as you can see. But what I do to make it easier to find a specific size... Oh, wow, you're in the wrong drawer. There's a 24-inch needle in my 16-inch drawer. So I'm going to put it in the correct drawer. And I just dropped something. Oh, for Pete's sake. Alrighty. What I do is I make little tags. I mean, needles always come marked, but a lot of needles, the marking wears off, like especially, I don't have anywhere to set this right now, like Addies, you know, they used to mark them on those gold cables. That always wore off. Some needles are really nice, and like these are those Knitter's Prides, and so they're marked on the silver part of the needle. It's a US 7. But what I do is I make these little tags. This is just cardstock left over from my scrapbooking days. I make these little pieces of, I just cut these little pieces. I use a hole punch 2 holes in it, and then I write the cable length and the needle size. So this is a 16-inch US 7 needle. Easy peasy, it just slides on, and that's what I do with all of my needles, except the sock size needles. Those are just all thrown in there, and I think I have a needle gauge in there so I can just measure to make sure I know what size I'm using. But those are all pretty much 1s, 1.5s, and 2s. Maybe some 2.5s, I think, not 2s. Yeah. Anyway, but the only ones that are in here in packages are new. I've never used these. That's why they're still in packages instead of with the other things. But this works really well for me. I mean, it's really simple. And if I have a little basket that usually sits on top of this Sterlite container that as I'm using the needles, I take the tags off and I just throw the tag in that little basket. And then when I'm done using my needle, theoretically, I go back, I find the correct tag, put it back on, and put it back in the drawer. That sometimes doesn't happen right away. Sometimes I have a whole stack of needles that need to be re-put in drawers and put their tags back on. And then sometimes I can't find the right tag, which is why this one has 30 inches scratched out and 16 inches written on, but it's a 10.5. So it just makes it super easy for me to find them because I can just take the drawer out and I can flip these tags over. You know, in the drawer, I can flip the tags over so that I can read them and I can pretty much find the correct size needle that I need really easily that way. So this works for me. Your mileage may vary, but I just wanted to share that with you, because everybody has different ways of storing their needles and organizing them, and this is my way that I have used for years and years now, and it works really, really well for me. So, okay, 10%. Let's see. Gosh, this is getting long. I'm sorry. 10%. my son and I had our movie night last weekend. We watched the rest of the Harry Potter movies, the last 3 of them. So we're done with Harry Potter. I think he's coming over this weekend too. And we're going to do either the Hobbit movies or Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not sure. We're going to start those. I hope we do Hobbit. I love the Hobbit movies. And I just ordered the 3rd one for him. It should come today. So we'll see. I did go to see the second best exotic Marigold Hotel or whatever the name of it was last weekend with some girlfriends. I did not think it was good, but I did not think it was as good as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be funnier based on the commercials, but apparently they put the funny parts in the commercials. And it was a little heavier than I thought it was going to be. I didn't see the first one. I didn't have a chance to watch it before I saw this one. I was going to watch it through Amazon Prime, and I didn't have time. So my girlfriend that was with me at the time, she said that the first one was a little lighter. This one did have some, I mean, it had some life themes in it, but see, it's, the characters, if you've seen these movies, are mostly, I think, like in their 60s, 70s, like retired, that age group. I'm not there yet, so I'm not sure that movies that revolve around themes related to that age demographic are perfect for me, because then it's actually started kind of getting depressed thinking about some of them, because there was, you know, the overarching theme of relationship and not wanting to be alone, and what the various characters, how they function in life to not be alone. And some of that was a little heart-wrenching to me. And I mean, it's also a thought that I've had, you know, I think we maybe all think about that from time to time, maybe. But especially, you know, in light of my life circumstances in recent years, you know, I thought, I don't want to be alone the rest of my life. But I also do not want to end up being desperate in not wanting to be alone, you know. So I don't know. It was okay. And I mean, there was the whole younger storyline too, with the guy who owns the hotel and his fiance and everything. But again, I'm not in that age demographic either. I was kind of sandwiched. So I don't know. It was okay. I'm glad I went. I had fun going, and then we went out to dinner afterwards. It was so funny that my girlfriend and I were probably the youngest people in the theater by a good 15 to 20 years. I'm not joking. We were definitely younger. Yeah, it was fine. So anyway, there was that. But otherwise, it's mostly been working, going to the gym, doing chores that I need to do around the house, and sleeping. That is my life right now, because I've just got a lot going on. And it's a busy season for work. Once April is over, things are going to calm down a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to that, because then Maryland Sheep and Wool will be happening. Melissa will be here going to that with me. And I can just breathe a little. Yeah. And Emma will be coming home at the end of May. It'll all be good. So anyway, moving on to shop news. First of all, thank you to everybody who took part in the, or took advantage of the sale that I had last weekend, the Thank God It's Spring sale. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy what you purchased. I also want to remind you that the first quarter Fiber Nymph Dye Works finished object drawing comes to a close also on the 31st of this month. So you have through April 1st to post pictures, and then I will do a drawing for a $25 gift certificate for the shop the next time I record. And again, that's anything that you've knit with my yarn, spun with my fiber, or like spun my fiber and then knit with it. Post a picture and of your finished object. It just has to be finished in this quarter. It can be started prior to the quarter. Post a picture, and that is your entry. So 1 picture per project. I mean, unless you've spun fiber, the finished fiber, you can post a picture. And then if you've also knit with it, you can post another picture of your finished knitting project, because that's 2 different things. There will be the pre-order update this weekend. So this Saturday, the 28th at noon. Did I say that last time? It's noon Eastern time. There will be a pre-order update. And the colorways, I believe I told you this last week. I'm sorry, I don't remember. The colorways I'm going to be offering for pre-order will be limited quantities of Advanced to Go, Sad Panda, Soft Kitty, and Nyan Cat sets. I have not decided how many I'm offering of each of those yet. I can pretty much guarantee there won't be more than 4 Nyan Cat sets being offered, and probably not more than 4 Advanced To Go sets, just because those are much more time consuming. I may do more of Sad Panda and Soft Kitty. I haven't decided yet. And they'll be on... Nyan Cat will all be on Bedazzled. Everything else will probably be on 2 different bases. I just haven't decided that yet either, so stay tuned. I'm going to be putting that stuff up soon, since today's Thursday and the update's on Saturday. So all of those pre-orders will ship out by May 9th. And again, just a reminder, if you're ordering a pre-order item and you want to order something else that's actually in stock in the shop, please put it on 2 separate orders. Otherwise, the in-stock stuff, I'm going to hang on to it until your pre-order stuff is ready so I can ship it all at once. If you don't mind that, that's fine. You can put it on the same order. But if you want your in-stock stuff sooner, please do 2 separate orders. Otherwise, you'll need to contact me and make arrangements to, you know, fix the shipping amount so that I can ship it to you separately. So, the other thing that's coming up is the April minis of the month. Those will go live for pre-order. Also, I know lots of pre-orders right now. April 1st. And this is the April minis of the month colors. I am so excited about this color, and this is not, the light is not doing the stripy one justice. Let's see, maybe if I turn them this way so it's not quite as close to the light. Don't go towards the light. All right, that's pretty good. The stripy one, this month, I'm calling it Growing Peas and Carrots because it is springtime and it's time to start thinking about gardening. I wish I could start gardening. I can't yet, but soon. So this is a self-striper with the carrot orange, the lime green, which is also a fresh pea green, and then a smaller stripe will be in this color, which is the brown. This is sort of a medium dark brown, and I'm calling this dirt brown. It's actually a semi-solid I've never done before on its own. So I have named it Dirt Brown. So you will get these 2 minis. They're approximately 80 yards each. One is self-striping, one is semi-solid, and that is the April minis of the month. So I hope you will enjoy those. I will put up as many as I can for pre-order, and those will ship out by the end of April. So, okay, I think that's everything I've got for you this week. I feel like I rambled a lot this week. I'm sorry. But I'm going to go because I feel another coughing thing coming on. My throat's tickling again. So anyway, that's everything, and I will talk to you next week. See ya. Bye.